A wheelchair rolled across the hardwood in June 2008, and for a split second, one of the toughest players in basketball looked fragile. Tens of thousands inside TD Garden went silent. Millions watching at home leaned closer to their screens. The man they called the Truth was being pushed off the floor during Game 1 of the NBA Finals. It looked like the end of a championship dream. Minutes later, he walked back out of the tunnel. The arena exploded. It became one of the most replayed moments in NBA history. Heroic, dramatic, cinematic. But what if that wasn't just a comeback? What if it was a glimpse into something much darker? Because for nearly 3 decades, Paul Pierce wasn't just playing basketball. He was surviving something no one could see, and a real double life. He lived didn't start in 2008. It started long before the wheelchair. Publicly, Paul Pierce was stability. 10-time All-Star. Over 26,000 career points. 2008 NBA champion, Finals MVP, Hall of Famer. The face of the Boston Celtics during their darkest years. Wasn't flashy like Kobe. He wasn't physically dominant like LeBron. He wasn't a marketing machine. He was dependable. Clutch. Cold. They called him the Truth. Because when the game slowed down and everything tightened, he delivered. That was the image. But behind that image was a man who never fully relaxed, never fully trusted the moment, never fully believed. Safety was permanent. On the court, he looked calm. Off the court, he lived like someone waiting for something to go wrong. That's the double life. One version scoring under bright lights. Another version scanning every room he walked into. And the reason traces back to Oakland. Pierce grew up in Oakland, California, an environment that demanded awareness early. His parents separated when he was young. Stability wasn't guaranteed. Consistency wasn't automatic. When you grow up without emotional certainty, you develop a different muscle, vigilance. You learn to read tone shifts. You notice exits. You don't assume tomorrow looks like today. That early wiring matters. Because later, when fame came, when pressure came, when chaos came, Pierce didn't panic the way others might have. He had already been training for instability. His entire life, basketball became structure. 4 quarters, clear rules, defined boundaries. Inside those lines, effort made sense. Outcomes felt earned. It was control in a world that often didn't feel controlled. But even then, he wasn't the golden child of American basketball mythology. He was good. Very good, yet not universally crowned as the future. He slipped to the 10th pick in the 1998 draft. And when he landed in Boston, he didn't join a powerhouse. He joined a franchise in decline. The Boston Celtics weren't the dynasty of the 1980s anymore. The banners were dusty reminders of a different era. The era of Larry Bird. By the time Pierce arrived, the team was rebuilding, struggling, searching for identity. And almost immediately, the weight fell on him. He became the primary scorer, the late game option, the one reporters turn to after losses. Boston is not a patient sports city. When they struggle, they look for answers. And Pierce was the answer, whether he was ready or not. He averaged over 20 points per game early in his career, then over 2.5. But wins didn't always follow. And that's when narratives start forming. Is he good enough to lead? Can he carry a franchise? Is he a true superstar? Pressure builds quietly. Not in one explosion, but in repeated questions, repeated losses, repeated nights, walking off the floor knowing you did enough. And it still wasn't enough. That alone would shape most careers. But in 2000, something happened that permanently altered his internal world. September 25, 2000. Nightclub in Boston. Paul Pierce was 22 years old. His NBA career was just beginning to rise. And within minutes, everything almost ended. He was stabbed multiple times during an altercation, to 11 wounds in total. 3 of them to the chest, 1 dangerously close to his neck. His lungs were punctured. He required emergency surgery. Doctors later said he was minutes away from death. This wasn't a twisted ankle. This wasn't a strained hamstring. This was survival. In one night, a young BA star learned how thin the line is between celebrity and obituary. He recovered physically. Amazingly, he played all 82 games the following season. All 82. That stat gets mentioned often. What gets mentioned less is what that kind of trauma does to a mind when you've felt your breath struggle, when you've seen hospital lights blur overhead, when you've heard medical urgency in hushed voices. Something shifts. You don't walk through life the same way after that. And this is where the double life truly begins. On paper, Pierce came back stronger. He elevated his game. He led Boston to multiple playoff runs. He became one of the league's most consistent scorers. But internally, survival changes how you process risk. Teammates saw composure. Opponents saw confidence. Fans saw toughness. What they didn't see was hyper-awareness. People who experience near-death trauma often carry heightened vigilance. They monitor environments differently. They don't assume safety. Pierce rarely publicly dramatized the stabbing. He didn't turn it into a motivational brand. He moved forward, but moving forward doesn't mean leaving something behind. From that point on, basketball wasn't just a career. It was proof of life. Every game played was confirmation. I'm still here. And in high-pressure moments, that perspective matters. Because when you've already stared at mortality, a playoff deficit feels different. A hostile crowd feels different. A finals matchup against the Los Angeles Lakers feels intense, but not fatal. That edge is invisible, but it's powerful. In 2007, everything changed externally. The Celtics acquired Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen. Suddenly, Boston had a big 3. Expectations skyrocketed overnight. Now, the pressure wasn't about rebuilding. It was about winning immediately. Pierce's role shifted. He was no longer the lone star carrying a struggling franchise. He became the stabilizer between Garnett's intensity and Allen's precision. Leadership changed form. Isolation scoring, more calculated execution, more shared responsibility. But internally, the double life remained. Because hope can be dangerous if you've lived long enough without guarantees. The 2008 finals brought Boston face-to-face with the Lakers. History, rivalry, legacy. Game. One gave us the wheelchair moment. It's remembered as drama. But consider the context. A man who had once nearly died from chest wounds suddenly loses control of his leg in the biggest game of his life. For most viewers, it was suspenseful television. For him, it was potentially something deeper, a reminder that bodies fail. Without warning, he returned. He hit big shots. Boston won the series in 6 games. Pierce was named Finals MVP. Publicly, it completed the redemption arc. Privately, it reinforced something else. If you can survive chaos, you can survive pressure. But surviving doesn't erase scars. Over time, the physical toll of NBA seasons accumulated. Injuries, wear and tear, aging. The Big 3 era eventually dissolved. Trades happened. Pierce finished his career with stops in Brooklyn, Washington, and Los Angeles before retiring in 2017. Post-retirement brought a new stage. Broadcasting. He joined ESPN as an analyst. The same calm, sometimes blunt demeanor translated to television. But controversy followed in 2021 after an Instagram. Live video showed Pierce at a party environment that ESPN deemed inappropriate for their standards. He was let go. Public reaction split. Some saw irresponsibility. Others saw overreaction. But once again, the theme returned. Public image versus private life. For decades, Pierce had controlled what people saw. Now, in the social media era, that control was thinner. Reputation can shift overnight. For someone who built his career on composure, that kind of exposure hits differently. Yet even then, Pierce didn't spiral publicly. He continued speaking openly on independent platforms. He leaned into authenticity rather than polish. Was that recklessness? Or was it a man no longer interested in pretending? The double life was becoming less divided. So what does double life really mean here? It's not secret crime. It's not hidden scandal. It's something more psychological. For 30 years, Paul Pierce balanced two realities. The visible competitor clutch, composed, durable. And the internal survivor, shaped by instability, sharpened by trauma, always aware that everything can change in a night. Fans saw score. Teammates saw leader. Opponents saw a problem. Very few saw the hypervigilant mindset forged in Oakland and sealed in a Boston emergency room. Did that mindset make him colder? Maybe. Did it make him resilient? Absolutely. Did it cost him something emotionally? That's harder to measure. Because endurance is impressive, but constant vigilance is exhausting. When you live like tomorrow isn't guaranteed, you achieve with urgency, but you also carry weight. Others can't see. That wheelchair in 2008 is replayed as legend, but maybe it was symbolic in a different way. For a brief moment, the world saw Paul Pierce vulnerable. Then he stood up. And that's the image history chose. What history rarely shows is how long someone has been standing before that moment. Many nights they stayed alert. How many memories they carried quietly. How many internal battles they never narrated. Paul Pierce didn't live a double life because he was hiding something from the world. He lived it because survival reshapes you. And when you've once felt life slip through your hands, you don't move the same again. On the court, he controlled the clock. Off the court, he respected time differently. Maybe that's the real truth. Not that he was fearless, but that he understood fear and kept walking anyway. And once you've walked through that kind of darkness, the lights of an arena don't blind you. They just remind you that you're still here.